My wife, Lucy, and I have been married for 13 years. I am 43, and she is 46. We do not have children. When we first began dating, nobody could make me happy like Lucy. She always seemed to know exactly the right thing to say to me when I was down. But over the past decade or so, she has really started to show her true colors, and a lot of what her ex-husband said to me about her has begun to make more sense. For example, I have a very high-stress job. People bring me problems, and I fix those problems. But when I get home, 9 times out of 10, Lucy just has more problems to throw onto my plate. She doesn't work, so she's free to do anything she wants to solve said problems during the day. But lately, she has even begun making lists of things that she wants me to do after I work all day. But my biggest issue with Lucy is that I can't ever really open up to her about anything. Whenever I talk about something bad that happened to me, she'll either try to one-up me or agree with the person who wronged me. Last Friday, I had a horrible day. There was an enormous problem at work that basically all fell on my shoulders to solve. When I was crossing the street after work, I had a green signal, and a bicycle blew through a red and side-clipped me. The cyclist yelled expletives at me and then rode away. I thought about calling the police because it was technically a hit and run, but there was probably nothing they could do. When I got home, desperate, I talked to Lucy about what happened. She listened and then immediately took the cyclist's side. I reiterated that the cyclist ran through a red light, to which she responded that cyclists aren't obligated to stop. When I told her she was wrong and tried to put the issue to rest, she began frantically Googling laws. She found that in our state, they can treat lights like a stop sign. She began triumphantly reading the law to me loudly, word for word, getting louder when I kept trying to tell her that I wasn't interested. At the end of her spiel, she gave me this incredibly arrogant look, as if she was right. I just stared at her for a second and said that my life would be better without her. She got incredibly upset, shrieked at me until her voice was hoarse, and then packed a bag and left to stay with her parents. She has texted me all weekend, demanding an apology, but I haven't responded. Did I do something unforgivable here? In the comments section, commenter, what did her ex say about her? Original poster replied, he called her a colossal manipulative puss. I nearly hit him when he said that to me. Honestly, if anyone deserves an apology here, it may be him. Somebody said, sounds like problem solved actually. You said what needed saying, and she left. Done and done. Do you need help on first steps for contacting a lawyer or something? Because otherwise, it sounds like you got her out of your house with minimal effort. Another commenter, wait, if the cyclist is supposed to treat it like a stop sign, then shouldn't it stop and yield to oncoming traffic? You, who has a green light. So she's wrong and still triumphantly claiming victory? Personally, I think you could have elaborated a little on how she sucks the life out of you, but that's me being petty. I hope the best for you. Update 12 days later. 2 weeks ago, I had an argument with my wife, Lucy. This argument stemmed from Lucy's incessant need to contradict me and everything I say. Lucy left in a fit of rage to stay with her parents, and then kept spamming me with texts demanding an apology. A few days after Lucy left, I felt something I hadn't in a long time at home. Peace. I didn't have someone nagging me about literally everything I did. I didn't have to eat my meals in the correct order, something about pH balance that she probably saw from some brain rot creator on TikTok. I didn't have to wash my feet after getting home. I could actually enjoy myself, which is impossible when Lucy is around because I found many years ago that she tends to get the most aggressive when I seem like I'm either in a very good or very bad mood. I then did something I never thought I'd do. I reached out to her ex. He was more than eager to talk about Lucy and her shenanigans, so we met up for drinks. He and I both had near-identical experiences with her. Lucy is, through and through, a pretty horrible person, especially to her romantic partners. He cited irreconcilable differences for divorcing her, where it was no specific event, but just a long list of terrible interactions and coming to the realization that he detested her as a person. During this time, Lucy went silent on me. I used this lull in our relationship to visit a lawyer, who told me that due to the nature of laws in our state and the fact that Lucy is able-bodied and educated, the chances of me ever having to pay alimony are basically zero. I called Lucy at that point. She, for some reason, still expected an apology. I told her that I wanted a divorce. She threatened to take everything from me. I said she could try, but any further contact should be done through my lawyer. I'm fully happy to split our assets fairly. I'm fairly sure that Lucy will agree to any deal that gives her more than half. It's just the way she is, and if it's a 55-45 split, I don't care. All I'll have to do is act like she got the better of me now, and since she's an idiot, she'll happily agree. Thanks to everyone who responded in the last post with advice. Tons of you suggested divorce, which I think was what actually got me to consider it seriously. Top comments commenter. My advice is to not spend attorney fees fighting over furniture. This is an easy one to let them win on because the price of attorney fees piling up over furniture doesn't make sense when you can easily buy top-of-the-line replacement furniture for what you're wasting on fees, somebody said. Yes, but pretend you are really in love with certain pieces of furniture. Have your lawyer say, under no circumstances is Lucy to get the kitchen table. She'll feel like she's won when you cave on it, commenter. People like your wife make one big mistake in life. They leave, giving you an opportunity to realize how much better your life is without them in it. I wish you all the best. Another commenter. I divorced a woman who sounds similar to your Lucy. I actually set her up for a bad day in court. After going over the assets with my lawyer, I suggest giving her more on an item or two that really didn't matter to me. My lawyer said that was more than what a judge would give, and I said that was great. I wanted agreement from her side rather than wasting more time and lawyer fees. When we went to court, we gave my proposal to her lawyer. I could see them in a small room with windows going over it and her shaking her head no. She was going to fight for everything. Her lawyer seemed a bit chagrined when he brought back her counter, basically everything and the kitchen sink. I said no, this offer is more than fair and more than 50% of our marital assets. If she can't agree to it, then let's just set a date and have the judge decide. Then I got to watch her lawyer explain that what I proposed was more than fair and more than a judge would give her. I felt a little bad for him having to try to make her face reality. In the end, they did accept my proposal. The judge validated it, and I could get on with my life. Hello, Reddit. This is really awkward and embarrassing to share, but I can't think of anywhere else to get advice. I've been dating James for just over a year. We have a really good relationship, and we are good with communicating any issues that we have come to. I am very much in love with him, and we are happy. Now, maybe he is very comfortable with me now, which I know is a good thing, but I'm very frustrated and I don't know if it's just me. This is the only issue I have with him. He's just constantly farting and burping, and it's starting to really gross me out. It feels stupid to even type that, but it's really become excessive. We are both graduated from school and work full-time. We do not live together, but he is starting to move into my apartment. This started about 5 months into our relationship, and it has gotten progressively worse. He will burp constantly and blow it into my face to a point where I will start dry heaving because he thinks it's funny. He does the same thing with farting, always trying to do it on me because he thinks it's hilarious. I know it's normal. I grew up with 4 brothers, but he is constantly forcing it to happen. This is not once or twice. We have spent almost every night together the past 6 months, and it will happen all night. All night. I have asked him to please stop because I find it really gross, especially the burping because he will do it in my face and it turns my stomach and he will apologize but still continue to do it. Or lean in for a kiss and burp in my face instead, then laugh himself to the point of tears when I act disgusted. I thought maybe, at first, he was just really gassy and I should be more understanding because it's a natural bodily function. He does not do this when we are out to dinner or with friends. A few months ago, we went to a wedding together with some members of his family, and he accidentally burped really loudly, like he normally does when he is alone with me, and our table went really silent and glared at him. I didn't want him to be embarrassed, so I high-fived him and said, "Good one," and the whole table started laughing and cheering, and afterwards, he pulled me aside and said he was thankful I did so, as he was humiliated, but I broke the ice. I was a bit drunk and frustrated, so I asked him why he does it to me constantly, but he wouldn't do it in front of other people. His reasoning is that I am his girlfriend, and he should be able to play around with me like that. That I was being a typical girl for finding it rude, uptight, high maintenance. I didn't want to argue about it, so I told him I was none of those things, and he knew it. Cut the crap. We'll talk about it later when we're sober, and just have a fun time at the party for now. And we did. But it never changes. I've tried to make plans to be out of the house when we see each other, because even though it seems ridiculous, it's starting to stress me out. I can't talk to any of my friends about it because they think it's so funny. He is a very sweet guy. I like spending time with him, but I feel nauseous when we are alone together because it's just so gross. He is starting to work longer shifts, so he wants to stay in a lot most nights to relax. He started doing it during SEG as a joke, and our bed life has really suffered because of it. A few nights ago, he was texting me before he got off work, complaining about his day, and he seemed really stressed out, so I told him I would come over and I'll make his favorite and I'll make him forget about it. So I went over to his house and started cooking until he was off. After dinner, he leaned in to kiss me, and I turned my head because I'm so used to him burping in my face. We had an argument because he was accusing me of cheating. We haven't been making love. I told him it was because of the burping, and he said I needed to get over it, that he was only joking and I was being such a prude, that his girlfriend shouldn't reject a kiss from him, yada yada. I told him that I've been saying this is a problem for a while. I don't think it's funny at all. I threw up because of it. He started to laugh as I said that, and I just kinda lost it. I don't really yell at people. I am a calm and collected person, so I scared him a bit. I told him it was disgusting, and I am getting to the point where I'm no longer attracted to him, that I've been trying so hard to be understanding, but it's a two-way street. It wasn't to me about something being gross or funny anymore. It was about respect. He kind of got defensive, trying to throw in how I was overreacting, being ridiculous, but I shut it down and he apologized because he apparently didn't know I felt so strongly about it. He would try not to do it anymore. At all. I don't care that it happens. I only care that he forces it, etc. Now, having talked it out for the next couple of hours, he actually didn't try to burp in my face or fart on me. I was so happy I could enjoy cuddling my boyfriend without trying not to vomit. So I started unzipping his pants to make him forget about his bad day. You already know where this is going. It's humiliating, but I'm going to type it out anyway. As I was trying to blow him, he pushed my head down so I couldn't get away and tensed up and started farting loudly while laughing. I was so frustrated, I started crying immediately. I think he realized he did something wrong because he let go of my head and tried to hold me, and he kept saying, "I'm sorry. I thought you meant to do it less. I thought it was going to be funny to break the tension from before." But I got up and left his apartment. That was 2 days ago. He has tried calling me, texting me constantly. I have not responded. His messages range from being very apologetic to very angry, back and forth. I don't know what to do, and I feel like this relationship is over, but I still love him. I also feel really gross and violated in a way. Our mutual friends have been texting me as well, asking if everything is okay, and I've tried explaining the situation to my best friend, but he found it hilarious, so I'm afraid to explain it to anyone else. This is just so stupid. I literally feel like I'm crazy. Maybe I am uptight, etc. I also have a lot of his stuff over here that belongs to him, and I'm worried he will come back to get it, and I'll have to face him. What should I do? Am I just overreacting? Some relevant comments. Somebody said, "Damn that. I grew up with 3 brothers, and I wouldn't put up with this from a boyfriend either. Tell him when you do this, it reminds me of growing up with my brothers, and you're starting to be about as attractive as a brother, as in I am not attracted to you because of this. Stop it immediately, or I am going to stop this relationship immediately. You are seriously crossing my boundaries, and this is not okay anymore." If he can't pick up on the fact that you are serious after that talk, dump him, because he's about as mature as a 2-year-old, Original poster replied, "That's how I feel. He's like one of my brothers. I tried telling him this, but I don't think he was taking me seriously. Thank you for your reply, because I suppose it really is a boundary, and that's why I've been so upset about it and kind of invalidating my own feelings and believing I am being kind of ridiculous." Somebody said, "Good God. Just good God. After you literally screamed at him about it like a few hours ago, he thought it would be funny? Can you even picture being naked with him without gagging? Also, the whole thing is kind of hilarious in that I can't believe this is how a real grown-ass person behaved. You've got to be making this up kind of way." To be fair, he did text saying he thought it was only the burping thing that I didn't like that much because it was what caused the fight, and that's why he thought it would be funny. But I haven't replied because I know I mentioned it as well. Update next day. Thank you to everyone who replied to my original post and also those who directly messaged me. I wasn't really expecting as much support, but I'm glad that I'm not alone. Last night I was pretty miserable and just felt confused and sick about the whole thing. It really helped me deal with what I was feeling and rationalize, reading what everyone had written. I just want to clear a few things up before I get into how this has climaxed for me. My boyfriend did not start out doing this constantly. I remember the first time he did it, I was confused and told him right away I did not like it calmly, and he seemed to understand. I have never laughed when he did it purposely. I know the difference between an accident and what he does. A lot of the replies helped me examine my relationship as a whole. We have had other problems that seem to fit the same pattern. He had the same behavior with driving very fast for fun, and he had the same issue with playfully pinching and tickling, but he was doing it so hard it would leave bruises. I always expressed that I did not like this, but he was insistent that I was overreacting. When I showed him, he was actually hurting me. He stopped completely and never did it since. I didn't think it was an important thing to bring up. I think it's a bit harsh to call him abusive, because he respected that boundary. I know a lot of people were suggesting that I do the same thing to him, or retaliate in the same way, and it might sound nice to entertain that fantasy, but I'm really not like that. I will never let someone else's actions define who I am as a person. I know I will never try to intentionally hurt someone, and that makes me have faith in myself. A few of you made me really cry because before I wrote my post, I was completely unsupported and I felt alone and, well, really ridiculous and dumb. So thank you very much for taking the time to help me, even though I'm a stranger and none of you owe me anything, let alone your time and kindness. Thank you. Now on to today. I have not replied to any of James's messages. I blocked him on all devices. I feel like I basically told him it was over and he knew that. I have messaged a few of our mutual friends back saying that I would really appreciate it if they would just drop it, that everything is okay with me, but the relationship is over between us. A post said I didn't have to explain the situation completely, so I did that. They seemed very understanding, except one replied saying, "Over a one-time incident? Get real, lol, but so long as you're happy." It didn't really bother me, because I know the truth. It was hurtful that James may have lied, but I'd rather surround myself with people who value honesty. I also invited my best friend over and asked him if he could help me box all of James' belongings, to which he agreed right away. He kept asking me what happened, and if I was okay, so I showed him this post, and he was disgusted. He apologized for laughing when I had tried to tell him earlier because he said he didn't know it was so serious. He offered to take James' belongings to him, but I made him promise to not be hostile, or I'd ask someone else. He agreed. We spent a lot of the day in my apartment when the front door opened. It's hard for me to articulate myself, but I'll try to type it exactly as it happened. We both heard it and stopped talking immediately. It was James. I'm not gonna lie, I was immediately frightened, and maybe I could have handled it better, but I kind of just stood there. I just didn't expect to see him. He has never showed up at my home or work without a warning. My friend asked him what the hell he thinks he was doing here. James kept staring at me and ignored him, saying, "I thought you were dead or something. Why have you been ignoring me?" My friend stepped in front of him and handed him one of the boxes and told him he could take his stuff and leave, that it was over, and I didn't want to talk to him. James laughed and made a move towards me and said I needed to talk to him alone. But my friend moved in front of him and told him that he shouldn't be in my house uninvited, that it was illegal, and he was going to call the police. Then James got really mad and twisted his face all weird, and I can't explain it, but he started yelling, and it was like he wasn't the same person at all. He called me a slut and a cunt and said that I was some ridiculous princess, and he just kept going. My friend telling him, "That's nice, now you need to leave, or I'm gonna make you." And then James threw down his box and punched my friend in the face. I don't remember exactly, but my friend fell back, and James came up to me, and he grabbed me and started shaking me, saying I was stupid for throwing this all away, and that I was probably sleeping with my friend. I was very afraid, and I couldn't believe this was happening. My friend got up and grabbed him by the back of his shirt and threw him off me and shoved him out of my apartment. James ran away down the hall, kicking people's doors and screaming. My neighbor had come out of his apartment and asked what was going on, and I told him to call the ambulance because my friend was bleeding from his nose. I was so embarrassed. At the hospital, I kept embarrassing myself, crying and apologizing to my friend while we were in the waiting room. His nose is broken. He keeps making Owen Wilson jokes, impressions, but he is okay. Now, I am at my friend's house because I am afraid to go home. He said I can stay with him for as long as I need to. I feel really awful that my friend got his nose broken because I was a bad judge of character. I also feel really guilty that I got so scared I just kind of stood there and let my friend get hurt. My friend is taking me to the police station to file a report, but I just want this whole thing to be over. But he is being insistent because I need to do this to ensure my safety. This is my first relationship, and I don't even know if this person was real. I didn't think this was even possible to happen. I don't understand what I missed, and I feel like I'm vibrating inside because of how frightened I am. I want to go home to my apartment, but I'm afraid he will come back. The way my head is does not make any sense. I feel ashamed even writing all of this because it was from something so small and juvenile, so I don't know if I'm just handling it weird or my head is blowing it completely out of proportion. How do I proceed now, after I file a report? Has anyone been in this same situation before? How do people hide that kind of anger for over a year? Why did this happen? I'm sorry for the questions, but I just can't make sense of my own thoughts right now. Relevant comments. A commenter. I have not replied to any of James' messages. I blocked him on all devices. I feel like I basically told him it was over and he knew that. I have messaged a few of our mutual friends back saying that I would really appreciate it if they would just drop it, that everything is okay with me, but the relationship is over between us. James kept staring at me and ignored him, saying, "I thought you were dead or something. Why have you been ignoring me?" I'm sorry, but this is unclear. You actually did tell James that the relationship was over, right? While his reaction was obviously negative, I can kind of see why it would be overblown if he finds out that he has been dumped by having his girl's friend hand him a box of his crap and tell him to leave his girl's house. Original poster replied, I did not explicitly say it was over, but when I had yelled at him before the blowjob incident, I told him I could not handle him doing it to me anymore, etc. But in his texts, between apologies, he said things like, "Have a nice life. You're not going to be hearing from me again." And that he was done with the whole thing and me being ridiculous. I can see what you mean, and that's what I'm worried about. From his point of view, maybe he didn't really mean to act like that at all. Final comment from original poster. This was my first relationship, so I wasn't really sure. I guess I didn't have anything to compare it to be like, this isn't quite right. And in that way, I suppose I couldn't trust how I felt about it. But he has had quite a few other girlfriends. I guess my mistake was telling myself that he obviously knows better than I do, because he has dated prior to me. I don't know why, but it seems still alien for me to think of this as abuse, especially since he can't defend himself. But I know what you are saying. Thank you for your reply. I will take the things you said to heart and really take this time to look into myself so I can have healthier relationships and be a healthier person.